So, despite because this raises the following question to me, despite the intense amount of pain and stress you experienced during those weeks, what did you do differently compared to the other 90% that did fail? What were some of the key factors of your success that helped you to keep going?
Mate, this is the crux of what I do now. So even when I'm teaching things like wilderness survival, I extrapolate those particular points across to make them accessible to other people, because whilst I guess a lot of people look at people who have been through that process, so they look at people like me and they go, wow, they're different. How are they different? There's actually no difference. We all share the same common psychology, and we all have exactly the same physiology by and large, gender aside. But there's no real difference between one man and another man in that space. So for years and years and years, I wanted to make it accessible to the mainstream population in terms of, look, this is what makes things different between what people like me have been through and how we succeed in that space and yourself. Because otherwise it just becomes more and more of an elitist thing. Oh, I can do it, you can't. And I don't think that serves people. So what it's embarked me on is an introspective journey to figure out exactly what those things were. Some of those things now shape the emotional intelligence strategies I teach people on a survival course to help them stay centered and grounded and task focused, so they can basically get through the pain. They can get through the crisis or the incident that they're dealing with, and they can basically figure out some way that works for them to be emotionally resilient. So the best one I can give you right off the top of my head, mate, is what I call emotional anchoring. So I basically noticed a lot of the guys, myself included, they had some form of very heavy emotional investment in successfully completing the selection course for SAS. So they either had, they knew it was going to be a higher pay rate, so they wanted to improve their family situation. And it was usually, this is another important point, Yellis, it was usually something beyond themselves. So it's something that they would get. So it certainly worked with guys who were just hard-nosed, determined, self-absorbed, and wanted to just get that sandy beret on their head and be an SAS operator. They certainly get through as well. But the ones that were most powerful, and when the pain was extreme, the thing that I noticed those guys would draw on was, my kids need me to get this job so I can move them to a better city, better location, have more income, and get them to better schools. Those guys had that external anchor that was very, very powerfully emotionally imbued with the sense of their children's welfare. Those guys could basically do anything. They would go through anything because it was for the greater good. And that was a massive thing that I guess I flagged in my own thinking, but also as a subsequent instructor, going back and working as a selector on that course for a number of times over the years. Something that always stood out to me. Those guys that can do that, they become powerful because it's no longer about them. There's always if it's about you, it's easy to tap out and go, no one, it doesn't affect anyone. So there becomes a doorway that they can just go, it doesn't really matter. I'll try next time. But when it's their family and their family's welfare in particular, or something equally as powerful, they really keep going. So that's what I put across into the survival space now, because it helps people, I think, reflect on why they should keep themselves alive, why you should not quit, why you have an obligation to just keep going no matter what. And I think that's useful to people.